The Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act is about fairness, human rights, and careful U.S. diplomacy at its core. For too long, China has restricted access to Tibet, prevented U.S. diplomats and journalists from observing human rights abuses in Tibet, and preventing Tibetan Americans from visiting their home country. A Washington Post journalist said that in 2016 that Tibet is, quote, harder to visit as a journalist than North Korea. This bill seeks to reset the table. It is premised on the idea that reciprocity forms the basis of diplomatic law and practice of mutual exchanges between the countries. And it simply requires, if Chinese officials, journalists, and other citizens are able to travel freely in the United States, then it's only fair that their American counterparts are able to do the same. Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, I had the great honor of meeting with His Holiness last year, and it was a deeply moving meeting with him, the Tibetan government in exile, and the 10,000 plus people that came to a public celebration event while we were there. His Holiness is a man of peace and tremendous integrity, and he's laid out a 5-year roadmap for negotiations with China, and he's willing to work with China to find a way forward. But for any peace plan to get a footing, it is absolutely essential that we work closely with our global partners to push this issue at this time, because it is widely believed that upon His Holiness's eventual death, a period of greater instability is likely to ensue, making the human rights issues and possible solutions even more intractable. So the timing of this markup and hopefully successful conclusion of this hearing and then moving to the floor expeditiously is essential. There are many Tibetan Americans throughout the United States whose family members still reside within Tibet, and they are watching closely for signs that the United States is willing to help, willing to allow them to return to visit their families, and hoping fervently for a solution to the pain and suffering in Tibet and with the diaspora that has been experienced by generations. This bill is about careful U.S. leadership, and I look forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, and with our ranking member to get this bill to the floor, and I thank you very much for yielding time, Mr. Nadler.